A show that was hyped with the tagline, "You'll never see it coming." I often asked both me and the rest of the team, why is this here? Like, I guess it makes sense for Randy Orton. But by the end of the night, we all understood why. And I guess I'll just say it right away. Welcome back, Big Dog. But we'll talk about that more later on at the very end. Hello, everybody. It is Stel from the Shoot Style Sauna, welcoming you to another pay-per-view review of Summerslam 2020. This show taking place from the WWE Thunderdome, also known as the Amway Center in Orlando, Florida, making up for the new transition as they move away from the Performance Center to the Thunderdome. I think it's a very welcome change, if you want my immediate opinion, and we'll talk more about how it looks as the show goes on. But as usual, we're going to go through match by match, give each match a star rating, and at the very end, we will name the overall show grade with a letter. We're also going to name the match of the night and the show MVP. And before we go in, we are actually going to forego the pre-show match because I just didn't think there's anything noteworthy from it. So, just focus on the main card here. Let's get into things. Opening the main card, we have the SmackDown Women's Championship match opening things up. It is Bayley defending her championship against Asuka. Story of this match mainly stemming from what happened at the horror show at Extreme Rules and the weeks that followed on Raw, with Asuka losing the Raw Women's Championship via countout to Sasha Banks, and also leading to them really just bragging about it. And here we are now after Asuka won the Tri-Brand Battle Royal on SmackDown not too long before this. And yeah, here we are. So Asuka working double duty. They are not doing the back-to-back thing. They're going to spread the matches out on this night, so it's interesting to see how the move sets, what I guess the moves that Bayley does will draw importance later in the night. This match, it starts off, Asuka controls a lot early on. It's very much a lot of back and forth, but Asuka really has the advantage, just outsmarting Bayley, getting one out of holes, and she eventually sends her to the outside for a good old hip attack, and then she leaps off the steel steps for a good DDT on the floor. Very nice moment there. But as they get back in the ring, Bayley begins to take her own control of the match. She slows Asuka down before she puts her in a chin lock, and she hears Michael Cole talking about her, and she tells her to shut up, basically. Nice moment there. Good character work by Bayley. More back and forth. Early in this match, we see Bayley hit a Bayley to belly on Asuka after reversing one of her strikes, but it's a near fall kick out by Asuka too. Very nice moment there. Also, it's a reminder that the Bayley to belly is not really more of her finisher anymore. It's more known as the rose plant, as I call it. The I guess it's like a seated leg, not like a face buster quarter thing. It's interesting, but focusing back on the match, Asuka takes control again for a good old high knee strike, followed by another hip attack for another near fall. They get to the apron, and they're fighting, and they're basically able to counter Asuka. I think she's going for like a back suplex, and then she drops Asuka on her knees on the apron, and ooh, that's not fun. And commentary bring that up and how it's going to affect both this match and her match later on. We fight along some more. Asuka goes for a dive at the top, but Bayley gets this awesome counter. She moves out of the way and puts her into a knee bar. Really, really good moment there. Asuka fights her way out. So we move on later in the match. Not too long after this, actually. Asuka has Bayley in an arm bar, but Sasha is near them because it's that side of the ring for her. She tries to force her way out of the break, and Bayley gets her legs on the ropes, but actually Asuka also lets go of the hold. There's a brawl ensuing on the outside, so it leads to Sasha ending up a hip attack. She eats it for Bayley, but the distraction allows Bayley to roll up Asuka with an inside cradle for the sneaky old win. But it doesn't end there, because after the match, Sasha and Bayley beat down Asuka and leave her laying in the ring. And I'm going to give this match 3 stars out of 5. I thought it was a pretty good match. It's a good way to start the show. There's more of an overarching story in this match, which we'll talk about later on when we get to the Raw Women's title match. But hey, that was good. These two have had better matches together, but I think this one was no exception to being a good match. And hey, we're not done with these two, as we'll talk about them later in the night. Next up, it is a Raw Tag Team Championship match. It is the Street Profits taking on Andrade and Angel Garza with Selena Vega. Notably, Kevin Owens joins commentary for this match. Owens really getting involved with the business of Andrade and Garza, as we've seen in the past. I think that also at Backlash they were involved in the segment there, and now here we are. The Street Profits entrance, I really like this entrance. In their entrance, they do their pose on the ramp, and they have reigning solo cups in the background. It's actually a really cool visual. It fits with their gimmick reel, and they do it again in the ring, and the same thing happens. It rains all around the ring. It's a great visual, and it fits them so well. The match starts, and Street Profits get fired up real early. They are able to really take control, really high octane start, but Dantes dives to the outside, but he's caught by Garza and Andrade, and he gets spiked back first down to the floor. It's a bit of a rough moment, and from here on, it's kind of all the heels. They show some good teamwork here and there. They do the double foot stomp in the corner that Andrade does, but actually to make it make sense, because I think it's stupid otherwise, is that Garza holds up Montez Ford. So Ford actually can't get out of it like he should, because it doesn't make sense as a move. So Andrade hits it, but Ford eventually tags out. He spends a lot of the match getting beat down, but Dawkins comes in like a house fire. He usually does, but As he gets some offense in, Andrade rocks him with the spinning back elbow. Shout out to the Judas effect. I'm sure Jericho is smiling at that. He then falls off a spear for a double down. So they fight some more. It's a lot more back and forth. Garza is then getting in the ring, and 4 tags back in. And after a near fall, we see Zelina Vega arguing with the ref on the apron. But Garza's not paying attention to this, so I think he does like one of like those slingshot things, and he inadvertently sends Zelina down to the floor. And Andrade notices, so he goes to the head of his business partner. Garza's paying no attention to this at all. Like, he's kind of just fighting the match, and he tries to tag out after, I think it's Dawkins gets tagged in. And he just made attention. He's a spine buster. Ford hits the frog splash, and the Profits win the match as Andrade is still focused on checking on Vega, and he's too late to stop the pinfall. I'm going to give this match 2.5 stars out of 5. I thought it was a fine match. I think it would have been fine if it happened on a Raw, but, I've always thought that this would have been a good moment for the Profits to drop the belts. They've had a good reign, but I think they maybe could have used with the switch. We do have the pay-per-view next weekend for Payback, so they might do a rematch there, but we'll have to see on Raw. Not a bad match, nothing amazing, but hey, nonetheless, further an angle. Next up, moving back over to the SmackDown brand, is the match that was originally going to be a hair versus hair match, but is now a loser leaves WWE match with the stipulation that's also no disqualifications. It is Mandy Rose taking on Sonya Deville, and right away, this is a very hot start. It's a big old brawl to start things up. They finish fight around the ring. They gets up to the ramp, and Mandy suplexes Sonya onto the ramp. Ooh, bit of a rough bump to start things off. And it's really all Mandy, as she really is taking control of the match. She's throwing Sonya around ringside, hits this flying closing off the announce table. That was a cool spot there. It slows down a bit as Mandy slowly sets up a table. She kind of struggles to get it, which that sucks. I mean, I don't think she's ever worked this kind of match before, so I can understand why it's rough. So it allows Sonya to take over. She hits Mandy with a chair. She then takes her into the ring and tees off of her with some knees. A lot of knee strikes from Sonya here, really showing like her striking style, as commentary likes to big up from her MMA career, and we see a lot more of her mat wrestling skills. She does some submission transitions. She goes from like a reverse dragon sleeper into a triangle hold. Very, very nice stuff there. She lets go after Mandy gets on the ropes, and they fight some more. Sonya gets Mandy up. She essentially yells at her. I love this moment. I took it away as a show me what you got before Mandy hits a knee strike on her. It's not her finisher because she didn't hit her in the face, but she gets a near fall after that. Mandy goes back to the table. She puts Sonya on it, but she just rolls off the table. Very, very smart. Then I like this moment of the match a lot. Mandy gets a chair from under the ring, and she slides it across the table, but Sonya does like the Matrix dodge 2 times in a row before she just throws the table over. It's like, get out of that crap. I really like that moment. They go back in the ring. Sonya goes for an implant buster. Very, very cool, but Mandy reverses it, and then she hits 3 knee strikes, which I believe that's more of her finisher, and she really has control. She hits an implant buster, and that's the win. It was a pretty concise match, and they got a lot in, and yeah, immediately before I get the star rating, we have to give big props to both of these women for showing up and even wrestling in the first week, considering what we've known, what's happened with them in the past week. And like, it is sad to see Sonya go, as she is very frustrated on the outside. She has to be gone now, but we should all take into consideration the very real circumstances surrounding these two, and I cannot give them bonus points enough for still opting to go through with this match and going out there and putting on like a reasonably good match. There's good psychology. I think that was good. I'm only going to give it 2.5 stars, but the fact that these two just went ahead with it and still went out there and did it, I think deserves a round of applause on its own. So nice work, ladies. Hope to see Sonya back again very, very soon. All the best to her as she really gets through this tough time in her life. Next up, in one of the most hyped up matches of the night, it is the debut of Dominic Mysterio, the match that I was most excited for going into this show. And before we get to the match, we see earlier in the night that Dominic and Ray are talking backstage in the locker room about how Ray cannot get involved in this fight. Dominic wants him to stay behind and not get involved. So Ray does still come out in the match, but we'll talk about what happens during the match, as I want to make a note of Seth Rollins' ring attire. He comes out in an outfit very, very similar to Rey Mysterio's gear from WCW Halloween Havoc 1997, and I think he plays some mind games with Ray as he sees him, and it's actually a really cool moment. This match tells a really good story, I think. It starts out, Dominic gets out-wrestled for a bit of it early on. He can't really find a way to get Seth Rollins down. He goes for a headlock. Seth shoves him down. Seth knows how to get around all of his moves, and once Seth has control, he wants to get to the punishment right away. He has Murphy get a kendo stick for him, but eventually they fight for it. And as Ray watches this, as he sees Dom struggle early on, he always wants to help his son. But Dominic insists, like he always looks over and tells Ray to stay down, that he doesn't want his help. And as this match goes on, it's going to happen throughout the whole match. Seth just rubs it in Ray's face and demands him to try and help, but Dom just keeps reminding him, don't do it, Dad. I need to do this on my own. And I think it's a great moment that Ray's keeping his promise, and it really lets Dominic shine on his own. And he does. He gains a lot of control. We see some near falls for him. He gets actually a top rope DDT, which I think looks really good. He gets the kendo stick. He breaks the kendo stick. They're hitting him too many times, and Dominic really gets going. And when he gets going, whew, it looks good. But Rollins eventually fights way back in. It's really, really back and forth, basically. He actually gets into a table involved in the match. He sets it up in the ring, and as Seth does this, he's really mouthing off at Ray. There's this moment where he's on the top rope with Dominic in the corner. He has a kendo stick as well. He's basically gonna do a Russian leg sweep off the top rope with Dominic behind, on Dominic. But he's mouthing up to Ray too much that Dominic crotches Seth on the top rope, and then he puts Seth through the table using that same move. It's a really nice spot. He doesn't go for the pin right away because then Ray tells Dom to hit a frog splash. Great frog splash, near fall, and I love how commentary mentioned how Eddie's smiling down on him. Really good moment as you remember what happened last time Dominic and Eddie were involved at SummerSlam. Let's think about 2005 for a moment. And what's going to happen next? The match story continues to break down. It gets into this big family feud because not only is Ray at SummerSlam for Dominic, Angie, Ray's wife, is also there. And as they are arguing on the outside, Seth is brought in handcuffs at this point. And he's threatening to handcuff Ray after they also threatened to blind Dominic like Seth did with the steel steps. So Ray snaps and comes to the aid of his son. But Seth and Murphy eventually notice this. They actually beat him down next, and then they proceed to handcuff him. But Angie watches this, and Seth turns his attention to her. Ooh, bit uncomfortable as Seth is threatening to go after a woman, especially an older one too. And Ray is demanding that Seth comes back here, and he takes out him instead. But Dominic, as Seth is about to wail on him, he makes the save and takes out both Seth and Murphy. There's a great moment here. He's healing hand going on his own here. Takes care of Murphy, disposes him, throws him into the barricade. Great stuff there from Dominic. He then gets Seth back in the ring. He hits a 619. So we see him get it. Is he going to do it? Unfortunately, no, as Seth gets the knees up on the frog splash, which, it's so disheartening because I thought he was about to do it and get the win. But no, both men remain down. Seth grabs Dominic by the head, and he looks over at Ray, and he tells him to watch as he gets the stomp on Dominic, and that's your finish. It's a heartbreaking defeat for Dominic, and what was, I thought, a great debut for him. I'm going to give it 4 stars. I mean, there were some moments where, it was a little rough, but, it wasn't as rusty as I thought others might have been. And yeah, it was just really enjoyable. There was a great story being told. It does suck that, Ray and Dominic didn't get redemption in the end, but, Dominic still put in a great performance. I think he has a great future ahead of him. But yeah, this is honestly one of the better debuts I've seen in such a long time, and I'm just really excited to see what they do with Dominic in the future. Going back to the women, we have the Raw Women's Championship match now. It is Sasha Banks defending against Asuka, who earlier in the night lost to Bayley in the opening match. And between these two, I should say, we see Kayla Braxton interviewing the two of them backstage, Sasha bragging, saying if Bayley can beat Asuka, then she could definitely beat Asuka. Ooh, little seeds of dissent being planted there. When will it happen? Let's find out. Something I want to note in the entrances is that, did Asuka change her matches between the entrances? I want someone editing to correct this. So, yes, no, Eric, whoever's editing this, Tim, did she switch? I can't remember. Anyway, let's get into the match. It's very back and forth to start. Bayley tries to coach Sasha when they're ringside reminding how, what to do. So, Asuka is selling the weak knees from earlier in her match with Bayley, so it's good to see the reminding of that. There's this crazy spot early on where they're on the apron, and then Sasha does this big sunset flip powerbomb to the floor, and it looks brutal. Ooh. Imagine if that went through a table as well. That would have been one of those brutal spots, but it was a really good moment there. Sasha gets back in the ring, and Asuka just gets back in with a count of 9, and it's really just all Sasha from here. Asuka shows resiliency. She's trying to fight back, but, she's just so worn out from what's happened early on in the match, and she's just trying to fight. But eventually, she does get control of the match, and she goes up to the top rope and plants Sasha with a big DDT for a near fall. It allows them to really reset and catch a breather. Sasha gets outside of the ring to catch her breath. It's more back and forth, and the big thing that happens with this match, we saw it at Extreme Rules. There's a lot of technical prowess between these two. We see a lot of reversals happening. Sasha gets her double knees in the corner, and earlier we see Asuka hit an electric chair, face her into a knee bar, so Really, really nice stuff from both women. Commentary put this over as well, especially Samoa Joe. Some really nice stuff here. Towards the end, we see the two start to trade their signature submissions. We see an Asuka lock. Sasha rolls through and changes to a bank statement. She rolls through, and eventually it breaks up. And they kind of go in the corners. Bayley motivates Sasha some more, telling how Asuka is nothing. She can still do it. More back and forth. They go over to the, I think it's worth finish what happened earlier in the SmackDown title match, where they're both by like the whole area of the ring. Bayley avoids him from Asuka, but Asuka lands on her feet and eats a back fist instead, so Bayley's out of the picture. Sasha tries to capitalize. I think she goes for the backstabber, but she kind of rolls through instead, but she doesn't get the bank statement stitched in. Instead, she gets put in an Asuka, and she tries. She tries to fight out, but eventually she taps out to Asuka, and that's the end. Bayley couldn't save her, so that's it. Asuka has won back the Raw Women's Championship, and we see Sasha and Bayley distraught in the ring. Sasha very, very sad. She's no longer 2 belts Banks. And where do we go from here? Well, we still have Payback next weekend, and we'll see what happens with their tag match and whoever they defend against. So, really good match here. I'm going to give it 3 stars and a quarter, so 3.75 out of 5. I thought this match was kind of like its own thing. It would have gotten a higher rating, plus the story was really good going into it. Good stuff. Like I said, if it was kind of its own, like a standalone match, if Asuka worked WWE, it probably would have gotten higher, plus it had a clean finish compared to Extreme Rules, so good stuff there, ladies. But yeah, props to Asuka for doing double duty and taking some brutal bumps. The knee bump on the apron in the first match, and then that powerbomb off the apron in this match. Like, ooh, really good stuff from her. And let's see where it goes from here. We will see Bayley and Sasha still allowed to go to Raw because they are still tag team champions. So we'll see. Maybe we'll see follow up on Raw. We'll see. Nothing else has happened at time of recording. So let's see where we go from here. In your semi-main event, it is a WWE Championship match between Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre. The big story in this match is the whole thing of Randy Orton is taking out these legends that Drew has looked up to in his past, and here we are now. The big thing that we see early on is that Drew is being scouted by Orton. Like, Orton knows how to get a deal with his offense, and it really frustrates Drew. Orton almost gets 2 RKOs in, but Drew reverses both, and he goes out of the way, and he really starts to get his thought process back together because, Orton's figured out his moveset, and Orton really dominates early on. He drops him on the table. It doesn't break, and we'll have another moment of that later where I think it's more blatant. A lot of trash talking, and he actually also suplexes him off the announce table to the floor. Really nice spot there. But Drew, like he does as a babyface champion, he slowly fights back into the match. He starts working the leg of Orton. He actually gets in a figure 4. So, shout out to Ric Flair there. But he breaks out. Orton, what he does is he pulls the ref forward as he's on the mat and pokes Drew in the eye of his thumb. Oof, really good tactics right there by Orton. Orton has control again. We see the two continue to fight on, and after Orton gets down from the toss at the top rope, Drew hits the Future Shock DDT for a near fall. Nice shout out to that old finisher of his. And he goes, let's see, Orton also countered that, by the way. Sorry about that. But Orton takes control. He hits a power slam, and Orton has him kind of dead to rights, but I think Drew's also playing possum as Orton goes for the pun attempt. He gets hit with a power bomb from Drew as he gets back up. Drew goes for the Claymore. Orton moves out of the way. He goes for the RKO, but Drew sees that, goes for a backslide, and gets the shock victory. So Drew with a really, really sneaky one there as he sees some of Orton's offense coming, gets the backslide, and gets the 1, 2, 3. I'm going to give this match 3 3/4 out of 5, so 3.75 once again. This is a really good paced match. There's really good psychology between the two, and I would have gave it 4 stars if it was a more decisive finish, but I think this tells me that this feud is not over. Maybe we'll see a rematch at Payback, or maybe we'll delay it more to Clash of Champions. We'll see. All in all, I thought it was a great match between these two, and I'm excited to see what they do next. And after the match, we see a vignette air for the Limitless One, as Keith Lee is making his debut on Raw. See, I would have thought he would have been good for SmackDown, considering what their main event scene looks like right now, but we should probably get to that in the next contest. In your main event of the evening, it is a Falls Count Anywhere match for the Universal Championship, as it is the Monster Among Men, Braun Strowman defending against The Fiend, Bray Wyatt. This match continuing the feud that has happened since all the way back at Money in the Bank when we first saw Funhouse Bray lose to Braun in that really good storytelling match, and here we are now, capping it all off after that bizarre swamp fight with a Falls Count Anywhere match in the arena. Immediately, this is a big old hoss fight, lots of beef happening here, and it's really all Fiend as we get going here. And it's pretty cool, and he actually gets a toolbox, and he nails Braun with it, and oof, it hurts, and we'll see more of the toolbox later on. Strowman eventually takes advantage, and he gets over to the announce table. He tries to choke slam the Fiend through it, but we get a good old "I am the table" moment as the table does not break. And commentary even mentioned how like the table only like buckled, and I'm like, ooh, yeah, it should have broke. But let's carry on. They fight around the ring some more. They actually go back to gorilla position, and they were start tearing up the area. Also, red lights back there. Guys, remember when the Fiend had red lights? Yeah, it was stupid. Sorry, Sam. They fight back there. Fiend hits a Sister Abigail on the floor, only for a near follow as they eventually get back up and they fight back around the ring. They get back to the ring, and we see Braun hit another power slam on Bray. On Bray, but he kicks out, and we see Braun take a moment to breathe. He then goes to go back to the toolbox. He gets a box cutter. Bold strategy there. He gets back in the ring. Commentator's like, what the hell is he going to do with a box cutter? Well, he does this. He cuts up the mat of the ring and exposes the wood under there. But as he does this, the Fiend gets back on his feet. Braun looks at him and just yells, "Why won't you die?" And before he can do anything else, Fiend gets him. He manhandles him with Uranagi onto the wood. We see one Sister Abigail onto the wood, but that's not enough. He hits another Sister Abigail on the wood, and the Fiend wins the Universal Championship once again. Also, yeah, wait, I'm not done yet because, we got a post-match angle to talk about, boys. It's as, like, pretty much like immediately after the Fiend has handled the title. Guys, there is a big dog on screen. That's Roman Reigns. Look at that. He spears the Fiend. The Fiend gets no time to celebrate at all as Roman beats down the Fiend, and it's not him he goes after. He goes after Braun Strowman as he gets a chair. And he beats down Braun, hits him with a spear, and he really takes it to both of them. Roman also mouthing off about these two, saying how much of a punk Braun is, how the title was supposed to be his back at WrestleMania, and he also tells the Fiend that he's just a freak in the mask for hitting another spear. He holds up the title, and he stands over Bray as we fade to black, and that is the show. I'm going to give this match 4 stars out of 5. Mainly, the post-match angle gives it a half star because I thought it was really effective and it was such a good ending to the show for such a great return. I didn't think it was going to happen. And it's why I thought Keith Lee would go to SmackDown and not Raw. But now with Roman back in the picture, now I see why they moved Keith to Raw and they put Roman back. Because if Roman didn't come back, I think Keith should have went to SmackDown because I think they really needed him in the main event scene. But now I think things are more balanced with Roman back in the picture. Maybe Bryan will come back, and maybe we'll see Sami Zayn return sometime soon. Only time will tell. Also, yeah, Roman looks to be more of a tweener, if you ask me. Because, we really saw this double turn, or kind of a double turn between Braun and Bray, because we saw Bray kind of turn like more of a tweener, maybe babyface character, and Braun more like this monster heel in this build to this match. So I'm curious to see what we'll learn on SmackDown. Hey, it's got me a lot more interested in SmackDown now that Roman's back, and I'm really excited to see what they're going to do between these 3 guys. But yeah, that is that one. Really good. Really solid Haas fight, if you ask me. Some really inventive stuff going on here. Pretty straightforward. Lots of beef. But hey, the finish and the post-match angle were really, really good in my opinion. My final grade for SummerSlam 2020 is going to be an A-. This show, it started off kind of alright. I thought some things could have been better. Like the tag match was kind of forgettable. Sonya and Mandy had some weird moments, but they still put together a decent story in the end. And it is sad seeing Sonya go, but it's for really understandable reasons. But from Dominic's match onward, I thought the show really delivered, especially the street fight, the main event. Like everything in the second half of the show I thought was really great. Show MVP is going to go to Dominic because I thought he had an astounding debut. Really, really great stuff. He really shined in his moments in his match against Seth. He didn't really show many weaknesses aside from it being like his first time in front of like a big arena setting, I should say, not stadium. Not yet. One day we'll see you in arena, Dom, and you're gonna do a great job, man. And yeah, and the match of the night is gonna go to the street fight as well because I thought it told such a great story. And again, Dominic really, really showed that his future is incredibly bright. But we have a lot to look forward to, everybody. Keith Lee is coming to Raw. Roman Reigns is back, new Universal Champion, and we have a lot coming up. Payback is next week. What will the card look like? Well, we're going to have to watch TV this week and find out. So, that is my review for SummerSlam 2020. And coming up on the channel, we'll have Tim's review of NXT TakeOver 30. He'll be talking about that and why he hates Pat McAfee. Be sure to stay tuned for that. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and enable notifications as you'll see us posting more content in the coming days. Lots of reviews coming up. We will have TakeOver 30, as I said, this video. We'll also have my classic pay-per-view review of WWE Evolution and a lot more other stuff. Some original content, some new stuff, some recurring stuff, and a new episodes of the SSS podcast coming this week being recorded. So, until next time, I'm Stel from the Shoot Style Sauna, and we'll see you next time.